Okay,
No.
We'll call this meeting to order of the Fitchburg Commission on Aging Well, and we'll start with the approval of minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read them? And are there any changes to those?
A date change for the announcements of the next meeting. It says September 14th.
Okay. So we need to change that to the second week of November?
Yep.
Jill?
no, in the minutes, it advertises the next meeting as being
Oh, I'm sorry.
today,
Yes.
which would be October 12th.
You're right.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll amend the minutes to reflect that change.
all right, very good. Any other additions or deletions from the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. Okay, we go to public appearances. Do we have any public appearances today?
I think I would like to, if it's okay, have Adam introduce himself, and I think it would be nice for all the commission members to introduce themselves as well, just to get a feel for who everybody is. Thanks for coming today, Adam. Sorry I'm not there in person.
I understand. I have a sick kid at home, or did yesterday, so I feel your pain or sympathy for you. Adam Sarah, City Administrator, just wanted to stop in and kind of say hi and just kind of say hi. See me around the building, and if you need anything, just reach on out. But happy to be here. I came from Verona. I spent 10 and a half years in Verona. I was the planning director there and also the city administrator. So excited to be here. Everyone's been really nice and pleasant, and which is wonderful. So yes. Any questions for me?
Adam, can you share which departments you'll be overseeing now?
Correct. So obviously the senior center, also library, IT, assessing, parks and recreation, forestry, and I'm missing Jeremy at Fact TV. I think I hit them all. I think I said IT, but yeah, I think it's about 6 or 7.
That's a load.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's a load, but Chad was doing it with those departments and along with 7 other ones as well. So I'm hoping to help lessen his load so he can kind of do his job, more effectively, and that's the goal at least.
Very good.
But yes, it's a load. They're relatively easy departments in my eyes. So
Very good. Well, welcome. Should we just briefly introduce ourselves?
Yeah, just a quick, yeah, that would be great.
We'll go ahead first then, Jill. You're at the head of the...
Oh, you all know me. You can start, Jerry.
I'm Jerry Kelly with the Friends of the Fitchburg Senior Center, and I am on our committee that addresses the Commission on Aging Well, and it's my turn to present.
Very good.
I'm Pam Yoder. This is my second year on the commission, and I live in Fitchburg and also am on the Friends Committee as well.
Good morning. I'm Janice Hughes, and I am on the Commission for Aging Well. My first year.
excellent.
I'm Paul Pittis. I'm on the Commission for Aging Well, temporary chair today. Been on the commission for coming up on 3 years. You.
Well, you won't see me at every meeting. I think if needed, I'll show up. I just wanted to at least introduce myself. So I'm going to hang out here for a few minutes and then probably duck out the door. But I just wanted to at least let you know I'm here. Obviously, work with Jill and David. But if you need anything from me, reach on out. Happy to help. Happy to be a resource as well, too. So.
Feel free to chime in while you're here.
I will.
Okay, agenda items.
All right.
Go ahead, Jill.
Oh, no, you can move on for the newsletter discussion. I'm going to pull that up for Dave.
Okay, so we'll go to administrative guidelines for programs.
Oh, is that first? Okay. Let me switch that. Okay, so this was sort of our final draft here. Now, because we don't have a quorum, we can't approve it, but I did put in the corrections and the suggestions that were made at the last meeting. And so today, I guess we can look at it. We can still make changes. If it looks good, we can bring it to a final approval in November. I think we have a nice, clear document and, nothing earth shattering, but again, I think it really helps give Dave and some, I guess, guidelines to make sure that we're touching upon all those sort of pillars of wellness and just reminders of what, what is important to look at when we're considering new programs, so we keep a nice healthy balance about our offerings. So open to any comments or suggestions.
I just have, as I reread the purpose, it's more of a just re-saying the last sentence, but I think it might read better. When selecting programs, the following factors will be considered in an effort to balance offerings that align with the district's mission and vision. And I was wondering if the word will be considered is better than evaluated, because we don't have criteria for those for evaluation. I don't know, and then just to have it read more will be considered instead of and an effort. I'm sorry, in an effort instead of and an effort.
Oh, got it. Okay. So read it to me one more time, Pam.
When selecting programs, the following factors will be considered in an effort to balance offerings that align with the district's mission and vision. Could say will.
That makes sense to me.
I just wondered if evaluate was the right word, or will be considered is a more accurate.
So Pam, do you believe evaluating is too strong or?
Well, I don't know. Usually when you have an evaluation, you have criteria stronger than just a list of things. We're not rating them or we're not quantifying any of them. We're just looking at them as a consideration. That's the only question.
And you're changing, your suggestion was to change department to district? Did you say that?
No, the following factors will be considered in an effort to balance offerings that align with the department's mission and vision.
Okay, I thought you had said district, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I didn't know if evaluate was the right word or will be considered. And maybe you're looking at it differently or, you're gonna look at all of these things. Just when I think of evaluation, it's a stronger measurement than considering them.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's where you were
Yeah.
coming from, yeah.
Or,
Like you don't have a rating scale or, anything in terms of those factors. And is every factor evaluated or just considered?
or a more general word could be the following factors will be weighed in an effort to balance?
Just less than evaluate is pretty strong.
What do you think?
I think weighing kind of ties you into setting one goal, objective over another, that kind of thing. So that's kind of a loaded word, I think.
Okay.
I think the will be considered is fair. I think that kind of gives you some room, some wiggle room or what have you. And evaluate is
Yeah, it's
strong.
kind of not as deep as evaluation.
Yeah, I think those are good points, Pam, because an evaluation would almost lead to like some kind of rating scale. Does it meet this or that? But these are what we're considering. Yeah.
Yeah. Had we done the more framework thing where it was more, that we took.
Right.
But this is more just an opportunity to be sure they're more comprehensive, considering all those pieces. So that would be my suggestion.
No, I'm in agreement with that. Is everybody else?
Sounds good to me.
That's fine.
That is Pam's phraseology.
In an effort. Okay. All right, I will make those changes and then we can bring it to November's meeting. How about the additional factors to be considered? Does that make sense?
Can I throw a wrench into the process here? For the fourth one,
Sure.
are associated with the program. Expenses is generally considered monetary. What about concerns for getting permits or licenses or that sort of thing? For example, this recent activity with the Red Hot Horn Dogs, we had to get permits for serving alcohol. And
Well, I guess that would be the Friends.
Yeah.
And because it's so seldom, Jerry, that we do that. I mean, I can throw it in there,
But it's long.
because that's an expense too, but yeah, go ahead.
I'll withdraw that.
Anything else in
No,
the
I'm,
guidelines that people would like to talk about?
No, I think it looks good.
So this will be tabled
Okay.
until next month, when we have a quorum, hopefully.
Yep, and I'll make those corrections too, so that works just fine if we're not going to approve it today anyways. So I'll put those corrections in there and bring it back. And again, I mean, we're doing some of this now. It's not so time sensitive that we have to approve it today. I like that we can continue to discuss it and kind of make it exactly what we need, so.
Okay.
All
Newsletter,
right,
Dave?
Yeah,
let me go back to the.
after our last meeting, Jill and I had a sit-down conversation about what we thought the parameters should look like for policy, and then Jill sat down with the city attorney, and so I'd like Jill to just give an overview of her conversation with the city attorney and where we are currently now sort of back to just the advertising options as it stands currently. So Jill, just give a brief overview of the conversation with the city attorney.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know, we had discussed last month a situation of a possible advertiser that we weren't feeling 100% that they were credible. And that's just lack for a better term. Not an established business in Fitchburg, just offering sort of a small trade work, and so I wanted to just meet with Val to see like what kind of criteria would, if any, we would put into, say, a policy for advertising. And the more we talked, the more confusing and convoluted it got in terms of, you know, if you're going to vet newsletter advertisers, you have to vet everybody. And then if you're going to vet them, what does that criteria look like? And, you know, if you pick and choose, then you're being subjective and not objective. She said less is better. You let people advertise. We have a disclaimer in the newsletter that says we do not endorse any of the advertisers. It's kind of like if you see them in the newsletter, it's still a responsibility to whomever is interested in that advertiser to vet them on their own, maybe call and get recommendations from them or from other people. So she strongly recommended that we don't have a strict policy per se about who can advertise in the newsletter. We just have so much space, and that's how we move forward with that. And so then Dave and I talked a little bit more and just talked about, this is kind of how it all started, was we need just a one pager, really professional looking flyer that we can give to businesses to say, here's your options available to advertise in our newsletter or online. So we're kind of swinging back to more of an information flyer versus implementing any kind of advertising policy at this point. Does that sound right, Dave?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So now we're back to kind of just this page of, you know, this is what we have to offer. It feels pretty clean. And then Dave will take the information from today and from the discussion and then put it into a professional looking flyer that we can hand out to any businesses that come forward with interest in advertising.
Jill, in our last meeting, we had discussed briefly about a line in there somewhere that we could present to potential advertisers that advertisers deemed to promote political or legal agendas will not be accepted. Was that part of your discussion with the attorney?
No, I forgot about that, Paul, but we can put that, I think it's in the second page under the advertiser's statement about the disclaimer. That would be a perfect place to put that, don't you think?
Yeah, I had developed just a couple sentences to address that. I'll just read this and we can do.
Good, thank you.
Community advertisement in the Fitchburg Senior Center newsletter will promote an organization's products and services that may benefit newsletter recipients. Advertisements deemed to promote political or legal agendas will not be accepted. Something like that.
I'm very comfortable with that.
You think it's inclusive enough? Is there anything that we haven't thought about that could filter through the cracks or, I mean, it sounds good, yeah, but,
What are you thinking?
I'm not, that's why I'm asking.
I'll throw that back to the committee. Is there anything that we need to elaborate on here that we're missing?
There's a
I think just a comment from the attorney, the less we try to implement, the better. If we try to capture one thing, then we just have to make sure if we're adding something that it's not causing us more work, I should say. And again, I'll have her look at this statement, Paul, but I like that statement. And Jerry, I need to like think about that too. I understand where you're coming from. It's kind of thinking about the program guidelines. We started to really define what those guidelines looks like. And then with every definition, there was another definition like, oh, is it, a craft program or is it an art program? Or I just don't want to get too in the weeds. But I like the political piece of that. Paul, I think that's important.
I
Yeah, that's just my.
I like the political piece, but can you give me an example of the legal piece that you're speaking of?
I'm going back to my days in TV where we used to get requests for videotape that was shot for a news story, and sometimes we would get calls to obtain that video for the purposes of a legal case. That may be a stretch here.
Yeah, that's right.
It might be a stretch here, because some people may use this as a way to address something in public that they feel they need to address as part of whatever legal issues they're dealing with. But that you're right, that could be a real stretch here. And in the interest of keeping as Jill has urged us to do, maybe just political agenda is enough.
Yeah, I
That's
think
kind
so.
of-
I think political agenda would be enough. I think then we're starting to get down the road and get deeper into the
Yeah.
weeds and create more problems for ourselves.
Is there a discrimination statement on the, I can't remember, on the newsletter? Don't discriminate.
I don't believe so, no.
Because if it could be included with that, so you have like your disclaimer. Usually things like that have a we do not discriminate against. There's a statement, that's kind of a legal statement written.
I mean, the city has that statement. I'm not sure where they promote that statement, but the city does have a statement. I know it's in our employee handbook, but how they get that statement out to the public, I'm not really sure.
See, and like
And I know we.
in school districts,
Oh, go ahead.
put out like this, but that disclaimer is always on it
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
discrimination.
Yeah,
It's a legal requirement for us.
yeah, and I get that the city, but who knows?
Well, I'm
it-
just wondering if this could be put together.
Exactly.
Dave, why don't if the commission is okay with this, why don't I just send you what I just read, and you can create
Yeah,
something on
yeah.
the
Yeah.
discrimination.
instead of having too many things on there, just.
And
Yeah.
you see if you can meld them into one piece and then run it by us and take it to Jill or whatever. Jill, maybe that's.
No, I like that. And you remember for when we were doing the programming policy, we did have a statement in there about discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go back and look at that and then bring that forward for further discussion. But I really, I like those ideas about including that within that statement about the newsletter advertisers in that as well. So maybe we can sort of combine that into a really strong statement that's in that inside cover of our newsletter.
And Jill, you might want to run that by the city attorney as well, just.
I will, yep, for sure. Good suggestions, thank you. Okay, I think Dave, you can go on now to just kind of talk about the options that we have right now.
Yeah, so what you have up on the screen right now is just a basic layout that I created for everyone here to just get an idea of what we currently offer to our businesses in and around Fitchburg. the $200 example for the 4x2 business card, instead of the 3x2 business card, because of how newsletter lays out, we have room to enlarge that ad just based on paragraph spacing and so forth. So they get a little bit more bang for the buck with that option for the 4x2 at $200. What you see there with Fitchburg Family Pharmacy, that's the $800 option, essentially for business cards within that spacing on the back page. So I think Thad has bought that spot for the last 2 years, and he introduced that idea to us. It wasn't something that we had laid out initially in our plans. That's why we were looking at creating more of a set policy on how we go about our advertising. I think that's what we'll have before we send out renewals for January through December of next year. So there's that, and then we have the $150 flyer insert option where the business or presenter or who have you pays the $150, they provide the inserts, and then our volunteers assemble those within the newsletter. And so that's just something that they bring in. I give them the timelines on when things are due. And then I also asked that they send me a copy of what they are working on so we can approve that based on some of our, our bullet points that we spoke about earlier about what we want to promote and make sure that fits within our pattern of programming at the senior center.
David, would you charge more for an insert that's printed on both sides versus just one side?
We haven't thought about that. Just that one insert, it takes up that same space.
Yeah,
So
it requires the same amount of effort by the assemblers.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'd be, an additional cost to that
Yeah.
that business to have printed on both sides. So it's something to consider, certainly.
Yeah, that's an option for them, yeah.
How do we come up with pricing?
I think Jill had pricing set, and then we just continually increased that when she was doing the newsletter back in the day, and we just sort of at the increases, and then businesses that were wanting to accept those price points and advertise in our newsletter. So it's a fine balancing act, because if you charge too much, well,
Right.
someone drops, and then that whole year potentially we don't have an advertiser. So we want to be aware of where that breaking point is. For example, Thad, he's a marketing monster for Fitchburg Family Pharmacy, and so he'll pay whatever it is because he sees huge value in marketing. That's Thad. Some of these other businesses, they are looking at what kind of response they're getting from these advertisements in the newsletter, and if they're not seeing that, they might, well, you got a thing going, but it's not a great thing going for us potentially. So that's something to consider.
Are our prices comparative to other newsletters, senior centers, or?
Well, like the last meeting, I think we're in the Tank County area, we're the only senior center that does the newsletter in-house, where LPI, a marketing company, they take the material from the senior center, they put it into
Right.
the body of a newsletter, but then they go out and they solicit advertisers. And so whatever they charge for advertising, they get that revenue, so.
But we're the only senior center that doing our in-house?
As far as I know.
Okay.
So then we also have the online, if we could scroll a little bit further down. The online advertising, and we have that for $100, and I encourage those that are doing the hard copy newsletter, the online newsletter, those that are advertising in those two options, to also consider the online page, which then gives them the live clickable link to their website of choice. And all of the advertisers this year said absolutely they wanted to jump onto that option as well. So that's, an add-on that has increased our revenue just a little bit, and that's working out well. So those are pretty much the options in a nutshell. So I guess, the question we always have each year is, well, do we raise the price? Do we, another question is the back page, the large ad that Fitchburg Family Pharmacy has been using last 2 years, purchasing that faithful advertiser in our newsletter. Do we open it up to others to have that opportunity? That's a question that we have moving forward into January.
Have you had requests to do that?
We have not. But if we do,
Yeah.
we want to be prepared for that. But on the flip side of that, I don't want to say that, well, you've been faithful for
Yeah.
all these years. He's had the small ad for many of years. Moved to this, and well, sorry, Thad, we are now opening it up to others that might not go over so well with him. I'm sure he would be all right with that in the long run, but does that make sense? So that's a question I do have that I'd like to get some opinions on.
A question to you, one of your statements about the pricing. When's the last time you've raised prices?
Probably a good 2-3 years ago. What'd you say, Jill? Not sure if she's still with us.
She's gone.
I'd say to save, be safe 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago?
You know how much of an increase it was?
It'd probably be about $25.
That's what I was, if you raise it, that's what I was thinking, like 175,
Mhm.
825.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Just something, but not huge.
Yep. Because we get these, big new condo developments in Fitchburg, and certainly they have the funds to promote what they're offering. But then we also have folks that do nail care, mobile nail care, and they're just their own little business. So, you got the big guys and then you got the small guys, and so it's a balancing act there too. It's not just these businesses with all sorts of money out there. We sort of want to be creative in how we advertise, and if someone is advertising, dog walking for seniors or nail care for seniors, we've had both of those options over the years, and those are nice options for folks to have, not just housing, not just, the basic stuff that on every single page it all looks the same. We sort of want to have a little bit of variation in there. I do think it's a good price point for 12 issues of the newsletter for the whole year. To have it, not just in the hard copy, but you go online and you check out the newsletter, well, it's in color. So you have it in both places, then you have the option of the online website, live link. It's pretty good value as it is right now.
Well, and also too, what's unique about this, other than what other senior centers are doing, it builds a bond with the community and the businesses, so there's some payback that way as well, good relations and knowing the businesses and, just having a good community bond is worth something as well. It's not just a place to advertise for these businesses.
Right.
So Dave, do you have data, like from any of your customers that speak to the number of responses that they receive or new customers that they receive based on advertising in our newsletter? Any data of that sort?
No, if they come to me with some feedback on what they are getting, I'll take that information, but we don't go out and.
But you don't have to talk to them.
I guess I measure it as if they're continuing to advertise year after year that they see that benefit, but I don't go out and.
No, I get that. I'm just curious in terms of, have we lost many advertisers or whatever?
Just the smaller ones, like I said, the nail care, the dog watching and walking businesses, the smaller, individuals that really look hard at their bottom line.
Right.
Yeah.
We might lose some there, but not
Like
with a
GameStop.
price increase. Sometimes it's just not in the cards for them.
So I guess that's part of what I'm asking. So is that the feedback you're getting from them saying, no, I'm not going to advertise this year because it's just not in the cards for me, or it's because I'm not getting a good return on my dollars? I guess that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I guess there's no direct questioning that I have gone over in the past. I will get feedback on, we have a gentleman that, drives cars down to Florida for the winter, and he'll give me feedback on, yeah, business has been booming, and, you know, he comes in, he's a meal driver, so, you know, we see him in person. So we get that kind of feedback, but no structured mechanism.
Yeah, and I get, you know, I understand that, not necessarily structured, but just those that we lose, do we take a minute to find out why? I guess I understand what you're saying, that you're not, you know, applying that to everybody, but it would seem.
Yeah, that's a very good question,
Yeah.
and it doesn't happen very often, but those that don't renew, it's not just, I don't respond to their email after they decline. I sometimes get that, but that's always something that I wanna consider and be aware of.
Is there often space left over, or is it always pretty much, because it's always pretty
Yeah,
much the
it's.
same amount of advertising?
Yeah, it's a real puzzle, because all of a sudden you get a huge article on that front page, well, that might take up 3 spots that I utilized the month before, and so now those 2 other spots that might need to be in that next month's newsletter, and I need to find a spot for those. So I say anywhere from 10 to 12 is what the sweet spot for that 4x2 advertisement. And really no more than that, because, you know, we expand it by a couple of pages, well,
And it's
each page is $150, you know, or more. So you're sort of losing out when you have to expand it by additional pages in that hard copy format, and so that becomes a struggle. So we try to limit it to 10 to 12 advertisers within that year and no more.
So how often do you have to say, we can't take you, we don't have any more space?
I've had to say that twice in the last 2 or 3 months.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
we just did,
Wow.
the space is just not there. But then there's months that our articles are shorter, things get canceled, who knows? And then there is space.
Mhm.
But then you don't just have businesses waiting in the wings to say, oh, I'll jump in and take that on.
So when you don't have enough space, you tell them, you know, this month we don't have enough space, but on a month-to-month basis, depending on size of articles and what have you, we may have space. So you don't completely close the door on them?
I don't completely close the door on them. I always have a list of those that are interested in advertising. But one newsletter leads into the next, it's every 2 weeks, and so, I mean, it's hectic. It's not just doing the newsletter, I'm creating the program content, I'm creating the articles and all that, so it's really hectic. So if I can keep it in November, we send out that renewal, we get our advertisers on board, done. Now I can get back to programming. I'm not sales and marketing per se. That's just part of what this process is, but it's really hectic. So the better I can streamline it, that's the way I'm gonna go. Instead of just, so I'll take you for here, and now I gotta remember, okay, we're billing for 3 months, and then,
So
they're
they
on for a
commit for
month.
the year.
I attempt to do that. The only exception to that would be the Fitchburg Farmers Market. That's a seasonal advertisement, and so that's the only one. So, but yeah, I'm aware of that, and if there is a space available, I'll definitely clue into that.
So what else do you need from us regarding discussion on newsletters at this point?
Well, I think it was just, the update on where we were with the city attorney's advice, and then there's just that question about that back page, large advertisement, how to move forward with that. We have not had anybody ask about that spot, so I assume that we will continue on as it is currently, and
Well,
then
somebody does.
until somebody does.
and then you have
But
to have a discussion
Yeah,
with
and
both
then-
parties and say,
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Yeah, when somebody does, then you've gotta consider it, and I get it, he's been a loyal customer, but you still have to take a look at if somebody else comes along.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Jill, anything from you on additional on newsletters? You're muted, perhaps?
Yeah, sorry, my computer had shut down, so I disappeared for a moment. But no, I think Dave and I talk a lot of, we were talking a lot about the newsletter, and It's just good to get the input from the Commission on Aging when we're bouncing all these ideas in our head and ways to do things better and streamline things. And so sometimes it doesn't end up in some strict policy or, any resolution, but just like, okay, we're sort of on the right track. Janice, I agree about, I don't know where we are in the ballpark of advertising. I think we're comparable maybe to a church bulletin, where do we really do that research? Like Dave said, LPI does the marketing or the advertising in a lot of those other newsletters, but they also charge a lot more because that's how they make their money. And so it wouldn't be quite as comparable to us just doing this on our own. So I think we can do some back research just to get an idea where we are. We raise our prices about every other year. And that's just kind of it's time to raise our prices sort of situation. We don't have a good formula we're looking at. So I think that's worth a discussion moving forward as well. It's worked for us. I think, that you're not overpriced because you have good, solid, reoccurring advertisers. Maybe we're too low, but I also think that it's just one market that we're targeting to, and so advertisers take that into account. So just a lot of other factors to look at. I think if advertisers obviously were dropping left and right, or we couldn't even fill the newsletter, we know we were too high. So maybe we're in a sweet spot. Maybe we can make a little more revenue. But it's good to have the discussion with more than just Dave and I. So thank you for your input.
So far, no one has said this is outrageous. I'm not advertising in your newsletter.
Oh, no,
Okay, no, that's good to hear.
no.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Dave.
All right.
And now we'll go to the,
Now, for fear of losing you again, yeah, we'll go to Jerry. I'm going to take the agenda off the screen now so I don't lose you guys again.
Jerry, you have the floor.
Thank you. Jill, I've written up notes so I can email them to you. You don't have to feverishly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, this month, the Friends had their annual meeting as well as the additional monthly meeting at which we go through various projects and the like. At the annual meeting, we typically introduce new members, and we've had 4 new members. We've said thank you to 2 departing members, and we elected our officers for the year. They would be me as president, Gail Schauer, whom I believe normally sits in here as the vice president, Leslie Hall's our secretary, and Marcia Griskovitz is the treasurer for the next fiscal year, October to October. Activities that the Friends participated in over the last month include the grand opening of the new patio on September 11th. There were several of us in attendance at that to witness the not so long awaited event. Really, we've had a rather rapid turnaround from initial concept to a completed project. And later that week, out there on the same patio, the Friends supported the National Seniors Month celebration by providing music by the Red Hot Horn Dogs, and we provided food and beverage at the festivities also. We have committed to support the Senior Center's Veterans Day celebration by funding meals for veterans and their spouses for that day. And we are also coordinating a travel show with Mayflower that will be coming up later today. It'll be a meeting by Zoom. So if anybody is interested, you can tap in through the Senior Center on that. And that's pretty much a summary of the Friends activities for the month.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
Very good. Any comments for Jerry? Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
From here, we'll go on to Jill for the director's report.
Okay. As Jerry mentioned, glad to have that patio completed and been lucky to have some nice weather and folks using the patio. So I'm happy to see that. And thanks to the Friends, they were a $10,000 contributor towards that expense, as well as all the other donors, as you can see the sponsor flyer in the newsletter. And so very grateful for everyone's support. And just glad to have that patio. I think we're gonna see a lot of folks using it next year when spring and summer roll around. It's a beautiful space. Um, so, and then, there was some discussion, maybe the discussion was in my own head about, is that a rental space for users? Is that a space that, if I were to be approached by the city or the community center to say, hey, we have a group that would like to meet out there, when it's nice, is that considered a rental space or not? So, not to make any decisions today, but it's just something that I started to think about. I'd rather be more proactive than reactive. And so would like for you guys to give that some thought. Is that a space that we want the community center to rent? Like other spaces that are senior center spaces are still rentable after hours. And so just a thought I had, again, trying to be, again, proactive versus reactive. If this comes up and somebody wants to have a little family party, on a Thursday night out there, is that something that we rent? So comments now or think about it. Maybe we talk about it next month. Anybody have thoughts?
I never thought about it, but that space does seem inviting to, I can see that being inviting to, like you said, a family gathering or some small group, some
Mm-hmm.
employee outing or something.
It would be after hours, right, after the seniors, not open, right?
Correct. You're right.
It's a beautiful space, but I think we also have to think about, we think about the revenue, the money that's coming in, but the work goes to manage something like that. And or the groups that may want to rent that. So then how do you determine, who do you rent it to, who you don't? You want people that's out there with alcohol, you want people that's out there having a party and spilling all over the place, so I think there's
Mm-hmm.
think about, and do you have staff power to take care of that and manage that, keep it clean, keep it neat, I just think there's a lot of little things to think about. Yeah,
No, I agree.
Good.
I think, and also too, this is very, I mean, it would roll under the community center rentals, because the senior center doesn't take care of any rentals. So even though lots of users use our space, particularly the dining room, the front meeting room, the Cyene room, the Swan Creek room, those are all spaces that we use during the day that are rented in the evening. And so when that happens, that falls under the community center rental umbrella. The revenue goes to that budget. We would never see any revenue. And they also take care of having a staff person present if there's a rental. So we wouldn't have any sort of responsibility that way. But then the flip side is, like Janice, you mentioned, I've had enough, and Dave too, experience with renters that they don't always use the space politely and respectfully. And that's something that I would hate to see the patio become, like you said, like just a little party space or be damaged, like we've seen other rooms. So that's the other thought I had too. But again, I wanted to be able to have an answer because I feel like somebody's going to ask.
Maybe we should be
So,
into talking with the parks staff who, rent out places in city parks for activities to individuals and groups. See what their experience is
right.
on maintenance and of the facility by the groups and that sort of thing.
Right. And the difference with the patio is, there was no city money that went into the expense of building that patio, besides, the time and labor of staff. It was funded by donations. Now, does that necessarily make the senior center the owner of the patio? But I think it's enough to consider that taxpayer money didn't really go into that. Those were donors that made that decision to fund that. So does that then give us more leverage to say, no, this is kind of our space? And that really was the same as the library that we have at the senior center that has the fireplace. That room, it was agreed that that would never be a rental space because the friends contributed over $100,000 to create that warm, inviting space. And because they paid for that space, that the city agreed we wouldn't have to rent it. So that's also something to consider. So anyway, again, we don't need to make any decisions, but I like to have you guys' input in that, as that was kind of rolling around in my head. And I do feel like we might get asked, so. Okay, so moving on, programs,
Jill,
I know we had little, oh, go ahead.
that's a question. You said the city decided and agreed that the library wouldn't be rented. Does that kind of decision have to be made about the patio, or is it kind of just not a decision unless it's brought up?
I would say yes, Pam. It's not a decision unless it's brought up. If anybody's watching this today outside of this group, this is a public meeting. I probably, me, I'm opening a can of worms. But again, I just know I'm going to get asked. Or the recreation department, especially maybe not right now, but next summer, as you might have a lot of renters in the summer at night, and then they see this beautiful patio and say, well, you know what? I'd really like to hold my small neighborhood association meeting out on the patio. And that's a harmless sort of group. The community center is used a lot at night for different groups, and it's rented out. And some nonprofits, it's free. So, if a neighborhood association goes to the rec department and says, hey, could we move our meeting outside and use that space? I just want to be prepared. Because I do think it's going to come up. So yeah, I'd rather wait. I'd rather have an answer and not make anything official, but I'd rather have a discussion at this level first. So that answer your question, Pam?
Well, you've probably got a few months now that we're heading into the winter months to think about it.
Right. Yeah, we'll be putting away that furniture in the next few weeks, and storing it, so there really isn't a lot of, it won't be conducive to meeting out there. But yeah, I want to be prepared before I get asked. So yeah, we can keep talking about it, and I'll keep mulling around in my head. So yeah, leading into programs, the lunch and learn, I heard it, the discussion before the meeting started. Thanks to Janice, we kicked off that first lunch and learn. It almost be 2 weeks ago, and our speaker was Maria Lopez. It's a hyphenated name, from Summit Credit Union, and she did it on scams. And Julia, the mayor, comes next month. But Janice, I want to kind of turn it over to you. That's kind of your brainchild, and super excited that you created this program. And so if you want to talk a little bit about it, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I believe that it was a good success. I thought the presenter did a great job. The information was wonderful. People walked out of there learning something new. As we all know, that scams target older adults all the time, every single day. And so she was very informative in terms of tips and what to do, what not to do, and what have you. Little glitz and some different things we'll have to tighten up, and she got lost, and so she was a little late in getting here. A little problem with technology and getting her computer going, but in the end it turned out really well, and people really appreciated it. The reality of this is that these programs is technically designed to address the individuals that ride the bus, that come to the center and don't have the opportunity to stay for some of the wonderful programs that Dave and those guys, present. They have to go and get back on that bus and get back home. So this is just to fill the gap, as Dave had mentioned last meeting. Fill that gap and to let those individuals feel and know that they're important and special to the center, as well as anybody else that walks through those doors. And so that's what the Lunch and Learn is about, to provide them with some educational information and just, let them know that we care about them enough to the fact that we're presenting this kind of program for them. So every month up through December, we're having speakers. As Jill mentioned, on the 18th of October, it's Come and Meet Your New Mayor. A lot of those people don't have a clue who the mayor is, so that's a lunch and learn. And then in November, we're having a registered dietitian come to talk about, eating and aging well, mindful eating, and just healthy eating. And then we're also in the month of November, which is on November 15th, we're having a gentleman from the UW come and talk about brain health. We all know Alzheimer, dementia, that's just floating around and it's hitting everybody. And so he's gonna come and talk about that. And then December, wrapping up December, we're December 6th, we're having 2 pharmacists come in and talk about medicine management. As we all know, older adults sometimes forget to take their medication, can't afford their medication, so they're going to talk about all of that in terms of medicine management. And then to wrap up December, we're having the fire chief, the Fitchburg fire chief and the Fitchburg police chief come in and talk about safety, holiday safety. So that's, up to December, and then working on, other things for going into the new year. But the point of that, it's open to anybody. We welcome everybody to come for that lunch. You can come, join and have the lunch at the center. You can bring your lunch, or you can come, you don't have to eat. But we want to make sure that we're providing that for those individuals that don't have the opportunity to attend some of the wonderful events and programs that are presented at the center. So that's kind of the nutshell. That's what's going on with Lunch and Learn, and I'm looking forward to, the next one that's coming up on the 18th, and certainly would love to have all of you stop in and join us. I think that would be great to see some of the commissioners come in and have lunch and join those folks, for lunch and enjoy the program. So that's it in terms of Lunch and Learn. There you go.
Thank you, Janice. Yeah, thank you. It's a great program, and very appreciative for Janice's work, just doing it all, getting all the speakers, putting it all together. And so thank you again, and come on over. Lots of stuff going on. You can see that in the newsletter. It's pretty jam-packed. Just a couple of things I was going to mention. We are having the CESTA. Dave arranged the CESTA is a new senior housing development that is being proposed up in Uptown. I think they're getting closer to maybe groundbreaking, and I think it's a project that has the independent, assisted, and then memory care, which is called like an RCAC, a residential care apartment complex. But kind of interested to learn more. They started out as Marquardt was the manager, and it did have a different name a year ago, and now it's called CESTA. So they're coming out on the 18th, and so if anybody is interested, come on over to learn about yet another new senior housing project going up in Fitchburg. So kind of exciting. Working again with EMS, Dave scheduled a second CPR refresher course because the first one was so popular. So always good to get refreshed on your CPR. It's not a certification, but just a refresher. And it's kind of an important thing to know, I think, in this day and age. So I don't know if that one's full or not, Dave, is it?
About halfway full, so I'd say 12.
Yeah, okay. And then a couple things coming up. Jerry mentioned Veterans Day. That's one of our biggest programs that we host, and we actually are going to have it on November 10th because that's a Friday. And we've been partnering with Eagle School for probably 10 or 12 years. The Eagle School students, the 4th and 5th grade students, participate by doing some artwork, usually some readings of some sorts, and they sing. It's really fun to have them engaged. The theme this year, Doris Coster, who really designs the program every year, is the leader of the Fitchburg Singers. And so this year she selected flag folding. And I always find that kind of interesting because I don't, there's a purpose, an intent to how the American flag is folded. And so we'll be involving a couple gentlemen from the fire department that will do the flag folding, and then the students will be reading what each fold means. There's 13 folds. And then also too, a PowerPoint on the history of the Arlington Cemetery. And then it always involves some songs and other things. So anyway, it's a great event. We have a taps player, and a lot of logistics go into this planning, but it always comes off really well. We're also doing a Quilts of Valor program. We've worked with this foundation for the last 2 years, And so veterans can nominate themselves or somebody can nominate them to the organization. It's a one-page application that they fill out talking about their service. And then the Quilts of Valor organization makes a quilt sort of specifically designed for that veteran. And then they do a ceremony where they wrap the veteran in the quilt when they award the quilt to them. It's really touching. Um, and so we'll be doing that at the end of the month. So we'll be taking applications in the next couple of weeks, and then we send them over to the ladies, and they design the quilts, and then the celebration will be on the 28th at the senior center. So that's pretty cool. Um, Also in November, we are having a dementia virtual tour where Dave, maybe you can talk more. I know that they put goggles on so it mimics somebody who might have dementia, maybe with some blurred vision. Sometimes there's audio that oftentimes folks with dementia might have some sort of audio hallucinations, or just how sound can impact how somebody is trying to go through the functions of their day, and how it's very confusing. And so it's a really great virtual experience. And I think it really um, leads people to be maybe even more understanding and empathetic for those that have dementia, particularly maybe even in the earlier stages where you might not know someone has dementia, but you don't even you would never understand the struggles that they're having within. And so that's what this program does. Am I right, Dave? It's the virtual tour.
That was a good summary.
Yeah, okay. So that's going to be pretty cool. And I think that's on November 6th. Um, Again, lots of other programs in the newsletter if you want to read about. Just wanted to comment on the Atlantis Valley Food, our new food caterer. The food has been wonderful. We're getting such great feedback. And then starting this month, we have the opportunity to have our people have the opportunity to have a salad Monday through Thursday, which is something we have asked the county for forever. And way back when, they used to give us just one day a week. And so now you have up to 4 days a week to order a salad. So for those that want to eat a little more healthy, they have that option. And from what I can see, the salads look wonderful. So that is now part of the meal option. On a caseworker sort of note, our loan closet, Dave can speak to this too, because he's created a way that we can really track the number of loans that we're um, giving out and coming back. And would you say it's at least 30 a month, Dave?
Yeah, at least 30. Mhm.
At least 30 people needing durable medical equipment. It's just exploded, which is great. The wheelchairs, commodes, walkers, bath benches, we have stuff coming in and out. And I just don't know why the last 3 months, it's maybe even 6 months, it has just exploded. I think hospitals know that we have equipment, discharge planners know, so they say call the senior center. So it's such a great service. And then oftentimes, it's really run out of people donating their equipment. We have a gentleman now, a volunteer, who checks it all in, makes sure everything works right. So it's just a great service, and I'm really happy to see it being used so much. We're seeing a lot of clients with dementia, um, and having feedback from spouses that dementia is escalating to sort of their spouse with the dementia is exhibiting a lot of hostile behavior. And so it's been very challenging, and then we're seeing an increase in that, which is hard. And so working with a lot of clients, the Alzheimer's Association, and even the ADRC has a dementia care specialist to give them support and guidance, because that's very, very difficult when your loved one gets mad at you, and it's really hard to handle. So we are seeing an increase in that. Um, Most recently, the Dane County was awarded a lot of money, somewhere in the like $1 million range. They're called independent living grants. And so they are being offered to clients that are almost around the $40,000 a year income. So it's not super, super low income. And it awards clients up to $7,200 to be used within a year on services that keep them healthier at home. And so it can range from meals, transportation, moving costs. It really home health, respite, anything. So it's a great, great program. There has been people hired to manage this program, but what we're finding is that um, the paperwork is extremely intense. And for many people that need this program, they're not able to scan in documents. They're not able. It's called self-directed. So they need to hire their own people. They need to pay their own people. They need to manage all of that. And so we're finding already that that work is now coming back to the case managers, even though people have been hired specifically to case manage the clients and run the program and support the clients. um, it's still coming back to us, which is fine, and we are happy to help. But I do have an issue with a lot of money being funded to other organizations to support the program and hire staff, and then the actual work or a bulk of it will fall upon our case managers. And so we'll be meeting at the county next week, the directors, to bring this up. And, maybe there's a way that some of that grant money be funneled back to the local level to help us um, support these clients as well. So it's just a challenging situation when, the county funds the senior center at about, I would say, 35 to 40% of our case management program. Um, but we're constantly being asked to advocate for more funding. We're constantly being asked to do more. The cases that we are seeing are very complex, um, but we don't see a lot of financial support behind all of that. So there's just a lot of advocacy around building more awareness at the county level of what the focal points really are doing at the grassroots level. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that, and along that is the county is we're going through the budget process now, and I don't know if you saw the funding for case management was status quo from Health and Human Services, so they didn't increase our funding. The county executive did increase the funding by 250,000, somewhere around there, 247, which was an ask that we put together through all the focal points. So he did include that in the budget. So right now, that request, we want it to stay in the budget. So now it's actually advocating with our board supervisors to ask them to support the county exec's budget, which includes that increase. And so tomorrow night is a hearing at Health and Human Needs that I'm going to go to, as well as other directors, to encourage board supervisors to keep that additional funding in the county budget. So if that's the case, we will see an increase for case management next year. So that is yet to be seen. And then that leads me to the city budget, which we're in the process of getting that budget approved. The mayor put out her city budget last Friday, so it is available to the public. You can go right to the city website and click. It's right on the homepage if you scroll down. There was a public hearing about that city budget on Tuesday night. I can say from the senior center standpoint, I had put in the position of a 24-hour a week activity assistant, bilingual, as well as a 24-hour nutrition site manager. So we could make Mandy's position a full-time volunteer coordinator, and then bring in somebody new that would just run the kitchen. Because we're sending out almost 50 meals a day for home delivered, and we average about 25 to 30 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Thursdays actually is about 20 now. Tuesdays is a very small day, which maybe 12. But anyway, the meal site is growing. The home delivered meals are growing. And so I'd love to see just somebody managing the kitchen, which is what most focal points have. But anyway, those positions did not make it into the budget. There were 84 positions requested by all departments, and the mayor had selected 6 positions to put in her budget. Um, I did talk to an alder about possibly doing a budget amendment to see if they would support putting one or both positions back in the budget. And um, they felt that it really wasn't feasible because what they're asking is if you put something in the budget, you have to take something out to balance it out. So if we're putting in a position that costs, I'm just going to say 50,000, they have to find a savings of 50,000. So that didn't happen. Um, what I am asking Jay Allen or Alder is to put a budget amendment in to increase our newsletter advertising budget by 2,000. We're over budget this year by 2,000. And that's because we're distributing and making so many more copies of our newsletter with the new senior apartments. And we're also doing more outreach. So we're putting them in new locations. And it's really a critical way to educate the public about what we do. Even at the apartment complexes, building relationships with the managers so they understand what we do, and then distributing those newsletters to each apartment. Um, the social workers, they're each assigned a senior housing unit that they go monthly and meet with residents and again just kind of educate them about what services are available. um, so I had that extra 2,000 in the budget, and it got cut out even before the mayor put out her budget. So I'm asking Jay to do an amendment to put that back in the budget, which he is in support of. So all of the city council budget amendments are due Friday. I think they'll be made public the next week. And then there's a committee of the whole meeting on, I think, the 18th, the Wednesday evening, where all these budget amendments will be discussed. And so anybody is welcome to watch. And that's where some discussion would come in, and I will be there to advocate for that increase. So that is where we are. And then also, what the mayor did put in the budget was 7,200 for transportation, which is great because the 7,200, that amount those figures came from what I had put forth in the H&I grant, the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative grant, and that I didn't get. We funneled it actually through the Friends because it has to come through a 501c3. That grant didn't make the cut, but the mayor did see the need for that funding, and I did include that 7,200 in my operating expenses, and it did stay in the budget. And so unless some council person put an amendment to take it out, I feel confident that that money will remain. And so starting in January, if that money is awarded, we will then be able to subcontract for additional transportation above and beyond the lunch hour. As Janice was speaking about, only people that ride the bus can do programs during lunchtime. So if indeed that transportation money is awarded, we can then look at maybe offering transportation pickups at 3 o'clock, or people can come at 9 o'clock and they can do exercise or knitting or any other programs that might happen. So that's pretty exciting. So waiting to see what happens with the city budget and the amendments. Like I said, I think they'll be public on Monday. So that is where that is at. I know I just rambled on quite a bit. Is there any questions?
So just to clarify, the proposal to have someone dedicated solely to kitchen duty and remove Mandy from that was rejected?
Well, yeah, and I don't want to say remove Mandy from that. I mean, it would, if that were the case, we would have to say, okay, Mandy, if we make this a full volunteer position, you'll have to apply. But yes, that is my thought. Years and years and years ago, we didn't have those positions combined. We had a volunteer coordinator at 10 hours a week, and we had a nutrition site manager at 25 hours a week. But because it was ridiculous to think that somebody could really operate at 10 hours a week as a volunteer coordinator, and because most of our volunteers, and I'm going back quite a few years, 15 or more, most of our volunteers back then were meal drivers and kitchen helpers. And so it made sense at that time that the nutrition site manager also serve as a volunteer coordinator because that's what she was doing. She was scheduling, she was recruiting drivers, kitchen helpers, and it all worked. But over the years that we've grown and we've expanded that volunteer position, and we've recruited so many volunteers to do things like Janice is doing, and doing programs and leading programs and sharing their time and talent. I think that a full-time volunteer coordinator position, we could really engage more of the community and even do more. But Mandy doesn't have the time to do that when she's still trying to manage the duties of the kitchen. So,
Thank
so
you.
I'll keep putting it in. Yeah.
Jill, any comments for Jill? Thank you, Jill.
Yeah.
Anything else from anybody else before we adjourn? I'd like a motion to adjourn, and we'll keep Thursday, November 9th as our next meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody.
Phew.
Thank you.
Thank you.